My name is Irene Caldwell, and I'm 29. On the night everything cracked open, my phone lit up at 11:30 p.m. with a message that didn't blink so much as it bared its teeth. Baby, please don't freak out. I crashed your truck. I'm okay. Madison was driving. We were just catching up. I had a bad headache. She offered to drive back. She's not used to trucks. So sorry. We'll explain everything when I get home. Madison, his ex-girlfriend, the one Evan swore was fully in the rear view. The name sat on my screen like a shard of glass. I stared at the text, felt the first surge of heat, and then something colder push it aside. Anger wanted to sprint. Caution told it to sit. I typed, "Is everyone safe? Where are you?" 3 dots, then, "We're fine. At the accident scene. Cops here. It's just some body damage." Don't worry, babe. Body damage. The photo that arrived a minute later looked like anything but. Airbags out, front end folded like paper, my 2021 Tacoma tipped slightly at an angle that made my throat click. I read the date and time again, the way you do when you need proof that you didn't dream the thing that ruins your sleep. For a handful of seconds, I stood in my kitchen, hand flat on the cool counter, listening to the fridge hum and my pulse throw itself against my ribs. Then I did what my father used to call turning on the lights. You step out of the story. You handle the facts. I called my insurance company's 24-hour line. "Policy number?" the agent asked, voice kind and crisp. I gave it, gave the location, the basics the police would have. "Who was operating the vehicle at the time of the accident, Ms. Caldwell?" "A woman named Madison," I said. "She is not on my policy. My boyfriend Evan had borrowed the truck. He let Madison drive without my knowledge or permission." A soft pause, the kind where professionals align sentences with policy. "Understood. For an unauthorized driver, liability may attach personally to the operator. We'll need the police report. Your comprehensive may not apply to certain aspects if the operator was not permitted." "Noted," I said, and my voice sounded like it belonged to someone whose kitchen counters were always clean and whose paperwork was always filed. Someone who doesn't start fires but knows where the water shutoff valve is. After I hung up, I texted Evan. "Okay, be safe. Send me the case number when you get it. See you when you get home." "You're the best. I love you," he replied. I put the phone down, turned off the kitchen light, and waited on the couch in the blue glow of the street lamp. Inside that quiet, tiny things began to line up beside each other. The random coffee run he hadn't mentioned. The headache. The offer from a woman he'd sworn he'd blocked. The sentence, "She's not used to trucks," like I should be grateful for the explanation. Evan came in after 1 o'clock a.m., Uber headlights sweeping the blinds. He entered with the careful, apologetic posture of a child rehearsing a script. Palms up, mouth already forming an eye. "Irene, listen. It's not what it looks like," he started. "I ran into Madison at the coffee shop, totally random. We started talking and—" "You texted me you were running errands," I said. "I was. Then I saw her. We were just catching up. I got a migraine. And Madison drove my truck. She offered, a teary smile that asked me to be the bigger person. She's not used to trucks. She misjudged a turn. No one was hurt." "Insurance won't cover her," I said. "Unauthorized driver. They'll pursue her for damages." The color shifted in his face. "You told them Madison was driving?" "I told them the truth." "God, Irene, how could you do that to her?" His voice broke on her, and if that wasn't a knife with fingerprints. "How could you do this to us?" I asked, steady. "You lied by omission. You met your ex, you let her drive my truck, and now you want me to lie to my insurer so she doesn't face consequences." "It was an accident. It was a chain of choices." He stared at the wall past me. "If you would just call them back and say you gave her permission. I won't commit insurance fraud to save your ex-girlfriend from a bill." The silence after that statement belonged to a different house. Evan swallowed, then reached for the nearest lifeline. "You're being jealous over nothing. We're just friends now." "Friends you didn't mention," I said, "at 11:30 p.m., that kind." He slept in the bedroom. I took the couch, not because he asked me to, but because I needed space from the version of myself who rationalizes red flags into carnival string lights. I scrolled through our last 6 months of texts, looking for gaps, found a few. 3 evenings he'd been running late. 2 unexplained receipts in our shared email, the kind that look harmless until you place them on a map with a coffee shop where you happen to run into someone you swore was gone. Morning brought the adjuster's email with the photos I'd already seen and a phrase I hadn't. Likely total loss, estimated market value, rental coverage guidelines, and a bulleted list of next steps. It was clinical, which I appreciated. In crises, tenderness from strangers is a luxury. Competence is a raft. By lunchtime, Evan's phone lit mine with a new strategy: pity. Madison's freaking out, he said over speaker while I sorted invoices at my desk. She's a grad student. She can't afford this. You can fix it with one call. Madison made adult decisions, I said. She got behind the wheel of a vehicle she wasn't authorized to drive. Actions don't become free because someone is sad. Your compassion is broken, he said, a strange, brittle thing for a man who'd just written my name over his ex's problem. I documented the call: time, date, summary, screenshotted the texts, emailed myself the voicemail. I didn't yet know who might need them: insurer, landlord, building manager, police. Only that paper is proof when memory is a courtroom with bad lighting. By late afternoon, a new number called. Hi, Irene. This is Denise. Madison's mother? I asked. My stomach was suddenly very, very still. Yes, we need you to fix this situation. Her tone had the patience of a woman who expects the world to apologize. That poor girl doesn't have that kind of money. That poor girl, I said evenly, drove a truck she wasn't authorized to drive. Insurance will handle it, she said. They will, I agreed, by collecting from the person who caused the damage. If you don't retract whatever you told them, Madison will be ruined. I stared at the sunlight webbing my desk. I won't be retracting the truth. She hung up. 20 minutes later, a man introduced himself as Robert, Madison's father, and tried man-to-woman reason. You're going to destroy someone's future over a mistake. My truck is totaled, I said, a mistake that cost $38,000 plus. People make mistakes, he said. They do, I said, and then they make amends. That evening, Evan brought home takeout from my favorite Thai place. He set the bag on the counter like it was a spell. He'd shaved, changed into the shirt I'd once said made his eyes look like green bottles in sunlight. Baby, he said, soft. I'm sorry. You're right. I shouldn't have lied about seeing Madison. The apology paused there, waiting for me to fill it with absolution. But ruining her financially isn't the answer, he continued. It's just going to create more drama for us. There is no us if us means I subsidize your lies, I said. My voice surprised me with how calm it was. I'm ending this. He blinked. You're breaking up with me over a car? I'm breaking up with you over betrayal, I said. The car just made the bill itemized. Tears arrived on schedule. I made one mistake. You made several choices, I said. And you're still making one now, by advocating for her instead of taking responsibility with me. He looked at the doorway to the bedroom. Where am I supposed to go? You're on a month-to-month. You have 30 days, I said. I'll email you formal notice tonight. Irene, he said, be reasonable. I'm being absolute, I said. That night, I drafted the notice. The cursor blinked like a metronome while the future sorted itself into two columns, mine and not mine. Evan's comfort, not mine. Madison's bill, not mine. The truth, mine, unflinchingly. Before I slept, on the couch again, by choice, I wrote one more thing in my notes app, a sentence that read like a vow. Boundaries are not weapons. They're doors you learn to close. And then I closed my eyes. 3 days later, the chaos had a rhythm. The calls, the texts, the guilt. Evan's tone shifted from pleading to pressure, the way storms shift from drizzle to hail. You're overreacting, Irene. It's a car. Madison's terrified. You could make this go away with one call. You're not the person I thought you were. Each message read like a script rehearsed by committee, or by Madison herself. Then came the official number I was expecting, my insurance adjuster. The vehicle has been declared a total loss, Ms. Caldwell, she said, gentle but professional. Market value, $38,000. We'll issue payment directly to you. However, since Madison was the unauthorized driver, she'll be personally liable for the damages. We've already initiated contact through her listed address. It was so matter-of-fact, so bureaucratically perfect, that I almost laughed. The system was doing what people refused to, assigning responsibility. By that evening, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Unknown numbers, voicemails, each one angrier than the last. Hey, this is Evan. We need to talk about this insurance thing. Madison can't sleep. She's a wreck. Come on, Irene. It's not like she meant to crash it. Don't destroy her life over paperwork. She doesn't have that kind of money. I ignored them all. Not my problem. Not my circus. But the storm found new messengers. First came Denise again, Madison's mother, with the emotional artillery. You're punishing the wrong person. Madison made a mistake. You're supposed to love Evan, aren't you? Why make him watch someone suffer? Then Robert, the father, using the calm authority tone that probably worked in his office. You're taking this too far. It's a car, not a crime. Except it was both. I wasn't punishing them. I was just not saving them. Meanwhile, Evan was doing what Evan did best, rewriting history. I caught it through social media, the vague posts, the edited captions. Madison's sister Ashley posted something like, "Some people pretend to love you until real life tests their loyalty." Comments rolled in, mutual friends chimed, defending Madison, pitying Evan. And there I was, the villain in their new movie. The jealous girlfriend turned ice queen. I didn't engage. Instead, I quietly collected screenshots. Still, silence has a way of enraging people who live off chaos. So Evan tried a new angle, remorse. He came home 2 nights later with takeout again. This time, not wearing the apology face, but the weary one. "Irene, I talked to Madison today," he began, setting the food down carefully like it could explode. "She's meeting with a lawyer. He said if you just tell your insurance she had your permission, this all disappears." "Disappears for her," I said. "Not for me." "She's not a bad person," he said softly. "You know that." "Bad person, good person. Those are fairy tale labels," I said. "She's a reckless one. You're a complicit one, and I'm the one who pays for it." Evan's jaw clenched. "You're cold." "No," I said, "I'm finished." That night I found something small but sharp, like a crack in glass that runs miles. While sorting our shared expenses folder for tax season, I saw 2 receipts from the same coffee shop, same week, different days. The first was for 1 latte and 1 tea, his usual order and hers. The second, a week later, listed a croissant, a muffin, and 2 large cappuccinos. The card used? Mine. The date? The morning he told me he was working late to catch up on client reports. I stared at the timestamps, that 9:43 a.m., gleaming like confession ink. He wasn't just lying about how Madison ended up in my truck. He was lying about when she'd been back in his life. The next morning, I woke up to 8 missed calls from Evan's parents, followed by a single text from his mother, Kathy. "Be the bigger person, Irene. Evan loves you. Madison is just a friend who made a mistake. This lawsuit could ruin everyone. Please think about family." Family. That word again. The same one that people use when they want you to pay the bill for someone else's damage. By the weekend, the insurance paperwork arrived. The official claim amount, $43,000. A line item for vehicle replacement value, another for rental coverage, and one that made me smile in spite of myself. Diminished value claim, $30,200. I scanned it twice, saved it to a flash drive, then tucked the letter in my desk drawer. Sunday evening, Evan walked in without knocking, a habit that suddenly felt foreign. He looked tired, but not from remorse, from calculation. "This is crazy," he said, dropping onto the couch. "They're suing Madison for 40 grand. She doesn't have it. You're okay. You'll get your new truck. Why can't you just let this go?" "Because that's how she keeps doing this," I said. "You, her, all of you. You break things and expect someone else to sweep the glass." His lips pressed into a thin line. "So what? You want her bankrupt? You want her humiliated?" "I want her accountable," I said. He stood up, shaking his head. "You don't get it. You're obsessed with control." I looked at him, really looked, and saw what I hadn't seen before, the man who couldn't stand when I was steady, because steady meant he couldn't spin. "This isn't about control," I said quietly. "It's about not being your cleanup crew." He walked out without another word. That night, I turned on my laptop, opened a blank document, and began typing every date, every call, every word. The file name, for reference. It wasn't revenge, it was insurance, the human kind. Because people like Evan and Madison don't just cause accidents, they stage them, with charm, with guilt, with words like love and family. They hand you a steering wheel, then blame you for the crash. And for the first time, I was done being the passenger. Evan didn't leave right away. He lingered like humidity, impossible to ignore, exhausting to fight. The 30-day notice hung on the fridge, typed and signed, yet every night his key still turned in my lock like a bad habit. The apartment, once my quiet refuge, began to shrink around him. One morning, I found the kitchen sink full of dishes I hadn't used. That night, he forgot to take out the trash, claiming he'd been too stressed from all the calls about the situation. By Thursday, the situation had become the air we breathed, stale, heavy, and always about Madison. Friday evening, he came home late, shoulders slumped, voice soft. "You've got to stop this, Irene. She's spiraling. Her lawyer says she'll lose everything." I looked up from my laptop. "You think I should feel sorry for her? She didn't mean to crash the truck. It was an accident." "So was trusting you," I said. He exhaled hard, pacing the living room. You know, you're making this impossible for everyone. You could end this. By lying. By being reasonable. Reasonable. A word used by people who never live with the fallout. Saturday morning, I woke to pounding on my door. Robert and Denise stood on the porch like an angry delegation. You need to drop this insurance claim right now, Robert barked, stepping closer. No, I said, holding the doorframe. Denise tried the tears again. Please, Irene. That poor girl doesn't have a cent. This will destroy her life. She destroyed my truck, I said evenly. Robert's tone darkened. You think you're untouchable? I'll make your life miserable if you don't stop. Get in line, I said, and closed the door in his face. By Sunday, the emotional warfare turned domestic. Evan accidentally left the freezer open, spoiling half my groceries. He threw an emergency guys' night that ended at 3 a.m. with beer cans on the counter and a broken lamp. Every apology came with the same empty refrain. You're overreacting. But the worst was Monday. I came home from work to find Madison in my apartment, sitting on my couch, legs crossed, like she belonged there. My voice dropped an octave. What are you doing here? Evan jumped up. She just needed to talk. Talk, I said, or trespass? Madison stood, eyes wide but defiant. I came to apologize. You can do that through your lawyer, I said, reaching for my phone. Leave. Her mouth opened, closed. She looked at Evan. Evan? He muttered, She's serious, Maddie. Let's just go. She brushed past me, perfume sharp and too familiar. When the door clicked shut behind them, I locked it twice. That night, I called my landlord and building manager. I explained the trespassing, the harassment, the threats. Then I wrote an incident report, time-stamped, attached photos of the spoiled food, the broken lamp, the entry times from my smart lock app. I copied my insurance company's legal department on the email. Documentation was my new armor. 2 days later, Karma arrived with a ringtone. My boss called me into his office. Everything okay at home, Irene? He asked gently. My stomach dropped. Yes, why? He sighed. We received an anonymous call. Someone claimed you were violent, that you threatened your partner and his family. I felt the air freeze. That's completely false. I can prove it. I opened the folder on my phone. Screenshots, call logs, the notice letter, everything. He scanned them silently, then nodded. I figured it was vindictive, he said, but HR needed confirmation. Take the rest of the day if you need to. Vindictive, the word tasted like truth. I drove home in silence, pulse steady but fierce. Evan was on the couch, scrolling his phone. Did you call my work? I asked. He didn't look up. I don't know what you're talking about. If you try it again, I said, voice low, you'll regret it. He finally met my eyes. Calm, taunting. What? You'll ruin my life? Too late, I said. You already did that yourself. He laughed, sharp and humorless. You really think you're the hero in this story? No, I said. Just the only one telling the truth. The next morning, I forwarded everything. The false report, the harassment, the threats, to my insurance rep. She replied within an hour. Understood. We're adding these details to our file and pursuing damages for harassment. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Because when people like Evan and Madison wage war with chaos, paperwork is peace. And I had all the receipts. 2 weeks later, the tension around me began to hum like power lines after a storm. Steady, dangerous, and waiting to snap. The email from my insurance company arrived first thing Monday morning. Subject line, claim update, additional action taken. Madison's lawyer had apparently sent a cease and desist letter accusing me of malicious prosecution and false reporting. The tone was pompous, full of phrases like emotional distress and reputational harm. I read it twice, half amused, half disgusted, then forwarded it directly to my insurance representative. Her reply came 10 minutes later. We've received identical correspondence. Rest assured, Ms. Caldwell, our legal department is responding. The driver admitted fault at the scene and in subsequent statements. We also have your documentation. You did everything correctly. They attached a PDF of their response. It was devastating, precise, surgical, and final. Madison was the recorded operator of the vehicle. She was not a listed or authorized driver. The police report confirmed her role. I had provided full cooperation and truthful statements. Continued harassment would result in escalation and a possible counterclaim. Reading it felt like a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Bureaucracy, when it's on your side, can be a kind of poetry. Evan, of course, refused to accept that the story was over. He stormed into the apartment that evening, waving his phone like a sword. Do you even care what you're doing to people? He shouted. She's broke, Irene. She's drowning. She's also accountable, I said. Accountable? His laugh cracked midair. You sound like a judge. No, Evan, I said quietly. Just someone who finally learned where her boundaries end. He paced like a caged animal, looking for any opening that might pull me back into the argument, the chaos. But there wasn't one. He finally muttered, You've changed. I've stopped apologizing, I said. He grabbed his keys and left. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame. The next day brought a twist I hadn't seen coming, and it didn't come from Evan. It came from Madison's insurance company. Their investigator had reached out to mine with an unusual discovery, Madison's driving record. 2 years earlier, her license had been suspended for reckless driving, reinstated later, but the history remained. She had never disclosed it to Evan or anyone. When that surfaced, my insurer amended the case. Driving with a previously suspended license while unauthorized meant the damages increased. Legal fees, penalties. The total claim rose from $43,000 to $52,000. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Evan, however, reacted like a man watching his house of cards collapse. He called me that night, voice trembling between anger and desperation. Irene, please, you're making this worse. Madison's parents are losing it. Her dad says they might have to take out a second mortgage. That's between them and her lawyer, I said. Don't do this, he snapped. Be human. I am, I said. I'm just not your doormat anymore. He hung up. The next week, he tried one final stunt, a legal loophole that was equal parts desperate and laughable. Madison filed a claim through her own insurance, saying she had permission to drive because Evan, as my boyfriend, could grant it on my behalf. I didn't even have to fight that battle. My insurer did it for me. They sent Madison's company. The vehicle registration, only my name. The lease, only my name. Screenshots of texts, Evan admitting he hadn't asked me. Madison's police statement, where she explicitly said, I drove without Irene's permission. Her insurer dropped her immediately for misrepresentation. And then, like dominoes, it all fell. Robert and Denise, the parents who had screamed at me on my porch, suddenly turned their fury inward. According to my adjuster, their attorney reviewed the case and told them, Your daughter is fully liable. They cut Madison off completely. No more funds, no more lawyers. I found out from a quiet, unexpected source, Brittany, one of Madison's former friends, who messaged me late one evening. Hey, just thought you should know. Madison's parents pulled support. She's crashing on Evan's couch now. It's bad. The irony twisted through me like smoke. After everything, the lies, the manipulations, the drama, she ended up living with the very man who enabled it all. It didn't last. A few days later, Brittany messaged again. Update. Madison moved out. Evan kicked her out after she asked him to cover her credit card bill. He's back at his parents' place now. There was a pause before her next message. You were right to stand your ground. None of us saw it before, but we do now. I didn't reply right away. I just stared at the message until my eyes blurred. Because that was the thing about truth. It doesn't need defense. It just needs time. That night, I opened the old document I'd titled For Reference. It had grown, 17 pages now, filled with screenshots, dates, reports, and quotes. At the bottom, I added one more line. Sometimes the cleanest revenge is a paper trail with your name spelled correctly. And for the first time in months, I slept straight through the night. By the end of the month, it was all over. At least the part that involved me. Madison's case crumbled faster than even I expected. Her parents' lawyer negotiated a partial settlement, but when they realized how deep the damage ran, legal fees, unpaid debts, the revoked insurance policy, they stepped away completely. She was on her own. Evan tried calling once more, his name flashing across my phone like a ghost refusing to fade. I let it ring. Then another call came from an unknown number. I answered without thinking. Irene, it's me, he said quietly. Madison's gone. She packed up last night. Left a note saying I ruined her life. She's right, isn't she? No, I said. She ruined it herself. You just watched. There was silence, long and heavy. You're not even angry anymore, are you? I was, I said. But anger's expensive. I stopped renting its space. He hung up, and that was the last time I ever heard his voice. A week later, I received the final envelope from my insurance company. Inside was a check, full market value plus rental compensation, neatly printed with my name. And attached to it, a short note from my adjuster. Claim resolved. Thank you for your cooperation and professionalism, Ms. Caldwell. We appreciate how thoroughly you documented everything. Case closed. Case closed. 2 words that felt like an exhale. I deposited the check, drove straight to the dealership, and bought a 2023 Tacoma, metallic silver with better safety features, and yes, a dash cam already installed. When the salesman asked if anyone else would be driving it, I smiled. Not this time, I said. Weeks passed quietly. My apartment was mine again, rearranged, repainted, reclaimed. The couch that once held late-night arguments now faced a new TV. The walls no longer echoed with someone else's apologies. For the first time in a long while, peace didn't feel like emptiness. It felt earned. Then, one morning, a new message appeared on Facebook. From a name that made me pause. Grace Caldwell, Evan's grandmother. Dear Irene, I heard about what happened between you, Evan, and that girl. I'm ashamed of how they treated you. You did the right thing. I raised my grandson better, but people have to learn. Don't doubt yourself, dear. Standing up for what's right isn't cruelty. It's strength. You deserve peace, and I hope you found it. P.S. That new truck of yours is beautiful. I saw the photo you posted. I read it 3 times. Then I cried, not because it hurt, but because it was the first time anyone from that world had seen me as something other than the villain. 2 months later, I learned through the grapevine that Madison had filed for bankruptcy. She'd tried moving back with her parents, but even they had boundaries now. Evan was working part-time at a rental lot, barely scraping by. He'd sold his watch, the one I gave him, for grocery money. It didn't make me happy, it just made me quiet. Because somewhere deep down, I understood the symmetry. They'd both been handed chances and treated them like shortcuts, and I'd been the collateral they didn't expect to fight back. One Sunday afternoon, I took my new truck out for a long drive down the coast. Music low, windows down, ocean air washing the last traces of them from my mind. At a red light, I glanced in the rearview mirror, a habit I'd picked up since the accident. And for a fleeting second, I saw my own reflection and thought, you made it out. Not unscarred, but unbroken. Later that night, I sat on the deck with a glass of wine and opened the file on my laptop one last time, the one labeled for reference. I scrolled to the bottom and added a final line. Standing your ground isn't cruel, it's clarity. Then I closed it permanently. People think closure comes with an apology. It doesn't. It comes the moment you stop waiting for one. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting everything in silver and gold, the same colors as my new truck, I realized something simple, almost beautiful. I didn't ruin anyone's life. I just refused to keep fixing theirs.